Welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast, where we discuss Dynasty strategy, rankings, and all things NFL. So get ready to geek out on fantasy football with your host, Rich Dotson.
And welcome to the Dynasty Nerds Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Rich Dotson. He's Matt O'Hara.
Hey.
He's Garret Price.
Somebody's excited about Christmas.
Yeah, that's just that and with us as long as it took you to count all the points that Kyle Pitts scored on your fantasy teams. You're facing up against him. Like, oh, there's another one. That rat's like that rapper. Another one. Another one. Yeah, dude, unbelievable. Like I went up against too many Kyle Pitts shares, too many Trey McBrides. Not as many Trevor Lawrences because I had a lot. I traded for Trevor Lawrence everywhere this offseason. He was my number one buy. And now I'm really happy about it where I wasn't before the buy, but boy, am I now. I know Matt's not because in our OG league where he went all in, he went against Trey McBride and Trevor Lawrence, and Trevor Lawrence went ahead, pulled down your pants, and kicked you with no protection.
Yep, that was really bad. I knew instantly, though. I mean, it was one of those things where I didn't really have to pay much attention the rest of the weekend. I was like, all right, forget it, man. There's no coming back from this. I can already tell this was somebody I needed to stay down. You know what I mean? For me to win that game and feel pretty good about it. And he didn't. He went berserk. And just want to say Steve Wilkes getting fired makes me feel just slightly better. But that defense, I was swearing at them the entire time. I'm like, can you please just stop this guy? What is going on? But in all honesty, I would never want anyone to get fired. But I was cursing that the entire weekend. So whatever.
Yeah, it's rough. Like when you have those early games and you kind of know, like again, the Kyle Pitts, you're like, well, it was over for. I had one league where I overcame the Kyle Pitts. I won one league.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was thanks to Trevor Lawrence, who I had little shares, and Kobe Parkinson.
Okay, wow. Yeah, he had a 2-touchdown game.
Yeah, who's been dude over the last 5 weeks has been really solid, and look for that to continue too. With Devontae Adams going on to hamstring, playing on Thursday night. They've been running a lot of 13 personnel, so you looked at that to continue the Kobe Parkinson continuous, and again that offense, it gets me a little excited for. All my Terrence Ferguson shares. I have a lot of those. So telling me there's a chance. Yeah, I mean, it works. I mean, obviously, he's so innovative, McVay. But right now, I mean, it's one of the best offenses in the league, which he always has been. Jacksonville, their offense is one of the best offenses in the league right now. So
listen, that was against the Jets, man. They have thoroughly checked out. They've been trending in the right direction, but this past week's performance, I wouldn't put too high on the list of priorities to kind of say this is a trend. You know what I mean? Like that.
Just looking back at it, because we talked about Trevor Lawrence. He's my most consistent guy last week. I have a lot of shares of him. We're going to be talking about him in tomorrow's episode and just going through the numbers, going back since they're. Well, wait, I got to mention it, but since
save it for the show.
It's not just Trevor Lawrence. Liam Cohen's offense has really been a thing of beauty. He's really calling some really good games out there. But today we are talking, Garrett, we're doing some, do we believe in? Do we hold on to some guys later in the show? Hey man, this guy's put your arms around him, hold him tight, kiss him like he's Santa Claus. Do you kiss Santa Claus?
Mommy is.
Oh, that's who it was. That's who it was. I saw Mommy kissing Santa Claus, even though Santa Claus is your dad. That's why you saw him. That's why you saw Mom getting down.
Well, that checks out. Yep.
It makes sense. First segment here.
I guess.
What's that?
I mean, this really comes down to how your mom was kissing Santa Claus, really.
Yeah, is it like a peck on the cheek, or are we talking open mouth, or what's happening here?
Yeah, open mouth French kissing is just weird no matter who it is. Anywhere at any times. If you're an eyewitness to French kissing, it's just oh wow.
Close your mouth.
Yeah, it's kind of gross.
That can be awkward. That can get awkward quick for sure.
Gross to look at, fun to do, I suppose. Love is in the air.
All right. let's get into our first segment here. Do you believe? So I'm going to give us players here that are not highly rated players or nobody you're going to draft in your top 50 or anything like that. And they've all been players that, have had some good, some bad, some ugly, but we're starting to see positive trends out of these players. And what I want you to tell me is we're going to give it a rating from 1 to 5. 1, I do not believe that this player is actually going to contribute for me next year. I think this is just a fluke. All the way to 5, that he will absolutely contribute. He's going to be a key part of fantasy teams next year, no doubt about it. And how much do we believe in the following players? So let's start here with the aforementioned Jets that we were just talking about, their terrible defense. And Adonai Mitchell, he has had 6 or more targets in each game with the Jets, and he's averaging 15 points per game over their last 3 games. Now, I know this is a player we've talked about on and off a little bit here and there, and there's some good signs, and then you see some things that you're like, oh man, I don't know. But we're starting to see some positive trends here. So how are we feeling about Adonai Mitchell? Do you believe? 1 to 5? Rich, we'll start with you.
1 through 5. I'm going to give Mitchell a slight above 50%. So I'm going to give him a 3 out there for the New York Jets. This is a player who's always been from an athletic standpoint super talented, right? Like just big athletic wide receiver. It's just like maturity issues. Can he get by mentally in the game and in the playbook, and obviously the hands as well. And he's producing. You mentioned I think he's averaging 8 targets per game for the Jets. Seeing a good target share. This past week he saw a little over 27% target share. But I think he only had like 58 yards on the game. But for me, Adonai Mitchell, he's in a good spot, and it just really comes down to like what are the Jets going to do and how they're going to pivot. Like nobody's going to outbid the Jets for Fernando Mendoza if they want him. And I'm a big Fernando Mendoza guy. Like I really hope my Browns get him. I don't think they will, because again, I don't think if the Jets want him, anybody's going to outbid them for them. They can go ahead and get him. And I think he's actually a very solid prospect. Like I was talking to you about it, Garrett, where like I think a lot of people like Jeremiah Love is gonna be that one consensus guy is gonna go 1-1. Even in SuperFlex leagues where like I have 1-2 in 2 leagues, and I'm very excited that I'll be able to get Fernando Mendoza because I think he's gonna be a very talented NFL quarterback. So for Adonai Mitchell, for me, like it's kind of like with the anticipation, if they do get Mendoza, him to offset and take that number 1 coverage away. Now to be the number 1 coverage away from with the Garrett Wilson coming back in 2026, having another step forward for Mason Taylor as well. So that gets me kind of like optimistic there that the Jets can kind of go build around this offense. What do they do at running back? I don't know, but what gets you excited too is that if they do go after Mendoza, we know that for the first 5 years, these NFL teams can build really good offenses around these quarterbacks because they're on that rookie quarterback pay scale. And once you're on that pay scale, like that's your best window, right? Like year 3 to go win a Super Bowl, because you can put so much around that quarterback who comes in and just eats so much of your cap. So I'll give him a 3. Super talented young guy, but it's hard. Like, can he develop into T. Higgins? Right, is what you hope. Sure. And by saying that, then you hope he could turn into like a high-end wide receiver too, right? That's like at this point, at least on the Jets right for now, like wide receiver, a high-end wide receiver 2. I guess his ceiling, though, you would hope is like he would turn into like a George Pickens, where like he really excels on the Jets and starts to go somewhere, and then he gets traded and goes somewhere and it produces like a George Pickens and jumps on the scene as wide receiver 1. So I think you pray for George Pickens, but I hate praying for outliers, if that makes sense as well. We don't see a ton of those situations come around. More times than not, we see players that have this profile coming to the NFL. They don't make it, right? When they need so many things to go wrong, they don't really put it all together. Mm-hmm. And that's what worries me about Adonai Mitchell. But as of now, I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give him a solid 3, but it's a lowest 3 you can possibly get.
What do you think, Matt?
I mean, yeah, as from what I've seen, I think 3 is a pretty good number. I mean, you mentioned it, Rich. I mean, this guy, he has the talent. It is kind of all the mental stuff. I mean, some of the physical stuff, he had some drops and some knucklehead type of stuff going on there with Indy. But, Aaron Glenn did come out and say basically, right, that, people saw you as kind of like a throw-in type of piece. We wanted you here. So they all wanted Adonai there. I don't know what it's going to look like with him and Garrett Wilson, next year, if that's a thing or not, or if they move on from Wilson, who knows, But I think they do like Adonai. I think they've kind of unlocked a little something in him where the Jets just might be a better fit for this player. So Adonai, I think a 6 isn't going way out on a limb, but I think it still leaves room for him to be a knucklehead and kind of implode a little bit without, getting too far out ahead of our skis, so to speak, and, like get too excited about a guy who's flashed, who's shown some nice stuff here with the Jets.
Yeah, I went with like a 3. If I don't know, I make the rules, but like if we're allowed, I'd give him closer to like a 3.5. Because I do like the talent. I've always been a believer in the talent. And when you saw what he was able to do, and it was like the full experience of Adonai Mitchell in that game, but against the Patriots, where like he was cooking Christian Gonzalez, one of the best corners in football. He was cooking him, and then he would drop the ball. Like he would do stuff like that, and you're like, holy cow! Like, but you see the raw talent and the raw ability was absolutely there. But yeah, I think if he's in one of those scenarios where Rich kind of laid it out, they get the quarterback figured out, they get some improved offensive line play, which I know is asking a lot, but I think it's in the realm of possibility. And now he's the number 2, more of a Z than he is an X, even though his body profile and talent says he could absolutely be an X. But if he could play just more of that deep threat Z role and let him develop over time on lesser coverage, I think he could absolutely feast in the best case scenario. You talked about a George Pickens, where George Pickens, when given the opportunity, showed he could be the guy, but he's been just as good as the Batman to CD's Robin. So I think that's the ideal scenario for him. But even if he doesn't quite reach that level, and he's just a, pretty solid wide receiver 3, like even a high-end wide receiver 4 that you can put in your flex spot and has some big spike weeks, that's a win at this point compared to where he's at. And if he's, able to be on a starting lineup week in, week out, which how he's playing right now, you almost can. But if we see that continue, I think that's a major win for him. So I'll give it, a slightly higher 3.5.
What would you guys say if I was like, what if he ends up being like a Jameson Williams type of guy who is that number 2 guy on his own team?
That'd be great.
But like you said, taking the lid off, that kind of stuff. He has the talent to be that kind of player. We'll just see if he realizes it. You know what I mean? This is one of those situations where there's just so much unknown with the Jets going forward, as far as who's going to be the quarterback there, what kind of situation is Garrett Wilson there long term or not? Who knows? I mean, there's been so much chatter, I feel like, about him kind of leaving, that you have to think at least some of that's coming from his agent. You know what I mean? So there's probably some underlying kind of desire to get
them, though.
I think so, but it's one of those always unsettled type of situations where, you know what I mean? Like there's always a little bit of smoke there.
Yeah, he just signed a deal. There's that seat during the trade deadline. I dug into that because like the number 1 team mentioned was the Browns, and a lot of it was just made up, like fan speculation, because the Jets were just selling so many people. They just extended him. He's not going anywhere. They're going to need a friend to the rookie quarterback. They're definitely getting a rookie quarterback at some point. So I don't think Garrett Wilson's going anywhere unless it turns a situation where he demands to get out. But I like that comp too about like Detroit as well. Ever since Dan Campbell took over play calling, Jameson Williams has been a factor for your fantasy football teams, like over 10 points every single week. They got Sam Laporta, could be the comp to a Mason Taylor. And then you got, obviously, Amon-Ra St. Brown, who could be the Garrett Wilson there. So, you can find some success there with all 3 options on the table. A good stash, not something I'm necessarily going to go buy. I think the going rate probably be a second round pick, for Adonai Mitchell. Some people might ask for a little plus a third, which isn't really a deal breaker there. I just know I'm not buying at that point right now. He's still one of those guys. Maybe I rue the day, but I think you do much better, because what it really comes down to, like for Adonai, is like, where does he fit amongst this smorgasbord of talented receivers we have right now throughout Dynasty? I think when you're trying to build a championship caliber team, he's not the guy you really want to count on. But man, at least it shows you with the depth of he's your wide receiver 4 or 5 along those lines. If he gets the opportunity, he could produce for you.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's go to we're going to put these two guys together because they're on the same squad. So Devin Neal and Tyler Shough. Both these guys getting some opportunity, doing some things with it. Devin Neal, he's averaged 11.6 PPR points per game over his last 4 games. He did leave this game early with an injury, so we'll kind of have to wait and see what happens there. But he's been given an opportunity, and he's done some things with it, gotten in the end zone. And then Tyler Shough, he's had over 18 points in each of his last 3 games, upset the division leading Panthers this past week.
Back week, they upset the Bucks the week before.
Yeah, so he's playing really inspired football at the moment. And so a team that looked kind of destined for nothing, he's kind of brought them back into at least looking like a team again, which is saying a lot. So Devin Neal, Tyler Shough, where are we at with these two guys? Matt, let's start with you, man.
So yeah, Devin Neal. I mean, here's the deal. I have not seen a lot of Saints action, so I don't want to speak, especially since these guys have taken over. I don't know why things have just not lined up where I just have not watched a ton of it. So I don't want to speak too much other than, kind of surface level stuff on both these guys. And then I'll ask your guys' opinion also. So, obviously what you're seeing out of Devin Neal is he's kind of coming in and filling in for Alvin Kamara. And Shough, the highlights I've seen of him, have looked good. I mean, he's looked like a competent kind of guy that's rounding into shape. So I feel a little bit more stable on Shough than I do on Devin Neal, just because I haven't seen a ton of action out of him. So I'm going to bounce this back to you guys, and because I just don't want to speak out of school on Devin Neal too much. What have you guys seen out of this guy? Is he legit, or is this a guy that's kind of just filling in for now, and he's going to be an easily replaceable guy come next draft season?
I would say for me, I kind of have 2 grades on Tyler Shough. Do I believe that he's the starter next year because they've played themselves out of a top quarterback? Yes, like I do believe that. And do I believe that he will be competent enough to be my quarterback too if I needed him to be? Yes. So in that sense, like I would give him like a 4.5 as far as like believing in him. However, on like the opposite side of things, do I actually believe that he's their quarterback long term? I compared him to, now they have a slightly different play style, but I compared him to Davis Mills in the show the other day, where when he's in there, I think he's going to be good enough and solid enough to not be the reason you lose, and to make the plays that you would expect him to make. But that's the extent of it. So do I think in 2027 he's their starting quarterback? I'm not sure that I do believe that that's the case. So in that sense, I'm more like a 2 on the belief meter in that case. So I guess it's, are you believing enough to get him into the season and sell high? Then yes, I believe. But do I believe he's their long-term option? No, I don't.
Yeah, that to me that's a massive TBD, right? And quarterbacks are so hard to predict and how they grow into something. Obviously, there's been some growth there. Working with Kellen Moore there in New Orleans, like he's grown every single week, and they're winning. And you're right, like I think a lot of things are pointing in the right direction for Tyler Shough. I know Garrett, we talked about him earlier, and you're like, yeah, it reminds me more of like a Davis Mills. And I mentioned a guy like Aiden O'Connell, who this like. They come in, they do this, they find themselves the starter the following year, and then you just realize, hey, this can't be the future. Now, obviously, Tyler Shough's got much better draft capital than both those guys, I think, combined.
I think he's better than an Aiden O'Connell as well.
Yeah, no,
I mean, I think that guy was very borderline.
Yeah, and he's got a draft capital too. So I think Shough finds himself in a really good situation where he's won a couple games where they shouldn't have won. He is a second round pick on a team that has not the greatest cap situation in the world. And they've got to reset. They can't go out here and do a lot. And he finds himself in a really weak quarterback class. So the Saints won't even have a chance to draft a guy to replace him anyway. So I think what's nice is Tyler Shough will be the starter the rest of this year. And Tyler Shough is more likely, I would say a 99.9% chance at this point, to be the starter for the 2026 New Orleans Saints. So for that, as in SuperFlex, that holds value, right? Because it's a cheap player you can go get. I've seen him go for a second round pick in multiple leagues right before the playoffs. I've seen him trade for him. So to me, I think that's really fair value. If I had a late 2026 second or mid 2022, I want some quarterback depth, I'd have no problem paying that for the gamble. I feel strong enough where I can get him in my lineup with him. And, we'll see who's outside of Chris Olave in 26, but he's got a very solid receiver to go to. So I'll give him a 3.5 because quarterbacks are so unknown. He has such a good chance to grow into a starter. And if he shows anything in 26 and he's solid, he'll get 2027 as an opportunity as well. So I might get a couple of years out of a guy that I pay a second round pick who's going to give me top 100 overall fantasy football production. That's really good value in my eyes in SuperFlex. Obviously, he holds almost no value whatsoever in one QB. Going back to Devin Neal. Devin Neal has been solid, right? Like he's viable in the passing game. He's shown he can kind of be a 3-down running back in this offense. And again, on a team that doesn't have a ton of cap space, like there's a really good chance that Devin Neal is a starter there, or at least a timeshare running back, like spin carries out there for New Orleans. What happens to Alvin Kamara? I don't know. I mean, you think the Saints wouldn't have got from under that contract. He's due $3 million guaranteed next year, no matter what. That got vested in March of this year. I know he has a cap hit of $18 million next year and a dead cap of $18 million as well, with an $11 million contract. So they'd be paying him like $8 million is what they kind of be saving there. So he's going to be 31 years old, Alvin Kamara. So a lot of options there. But I really look at Devin Neal as a guy kind of like in that Brian Robinson kind of role, where, he's totally fine. You can get him in there as a low-end running back too. If he scores a touchdown, he's going to help you out. I think there is a benefit to him because he is viable in the passing game, which helps his cause out there with not a lot of weapons in New Orleans for Tyler Shough. So same thing. I would give him, though, just as a 2.5,
I think that's where I'm at too, because you mentioned Brian Robinson and obviously stylistically a little different, but Dameon Pierce, where like they were good enough, like we'll give them next year. It's not an urgent thing, especially in a weak running back class. Like, we're not going to prioritize that much. So we'll just kind of give them next year. And then maybe the year after we'll look at it because we want to focus on line and receiver and, all the defensive holes that we need to fill and things like that. So I think 2.5 is kind of where I was at as well.
And just to give you a heads up, they actually have cleaned up their cap quite a bit. They're set to have almost over $11 million in cap space next year. So a big change from when they
our retirement helped a lot.
It did a ton. I mean, that really helped clean up their books. But I mean, they're always, for years and years and years, they were always projected to be over the cap by a ton. So having $11 million, they'll be able to do some stuff and move some stuff around, and they know how to maneuver it well enough at this point that if they want to do that, they could probably make some deals and take on a little bit of dead cap if they needed to get rid of a guy like Kamara or something like that, and take on a little bit of cap.
Yeah, and I sold. I said Tyler Shough was going for a second. Devin Neal, I sold it for a second round pick right before the playoffs started. I got a 2027 second for Devin Neal. Was really happy with that as well.
Yeah. You probably drafted him with the third, and you got it to move up around. So life's good.
And willing to lose out even if he's a timeshare running back next year. Like there's no.
That's
He's recoupable.
That's the vibe I got. Yeah, he's very much a replaceable guy.
Yeah. That's the feeling with him. Is like with that second round pick, I easily go out and replace that fantasy football production I was getting from him down the road if I need it.
Yeah. we've got a lot of players, and normally I kind of overshoot on players, so we'll get to just maybe a couple more of these till we get to our next segment. But let's jump to Jalen Coker. He's a name that's kind of a hot name again. He had a nice spike last year. He's hot again this year. He missed a lot of time due to injury this year, but since coming back, double-digit fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games. And right now, it's really Teteroa McMillan. I know some of us still like Xavier Legette, but he hasn't done a lot. There's just not a lot of other passing options. And so Coker's filled in and done pretty well. So what is your guys' confidence level on a guy like Jalen Coker?
I think I'm probably at around a 3 with Coker. I think they like Coker more than they do Xavier Legette. I don't think that's really hard to see if you're paying attention, and which makes me like jealous of the AD Mitchell situation. Yeah. And like I wish somebody would just come get Xavier Legette. They kind of wanted to actually have him in their offense instead of just pretend that they wanted him in their offense, which is kind of how it feels. It feels square peg round hole, where Jalen Coker just feels like the round peg in the round hole, kind of filling in as that number two with Tet McMillan. So I think at least a 3, maybe 3.5. But I mean, at the same time, it's like you're still tied to a pretty meh quarterback, in my opinion, that has some limitations. I know he flashes here and there, but we still haven't seen him do it for an entire season. We've only seen him do it in spurts in 2 seasons, basically. Yeah. So 3 is the highest I can go for Jalen Coker, I think, with that in mind.
Yeah, I'd go a 2.5 here as well. It's interesting because if you go back to early August, like people were really excited about Jalen Coker. There's a lot of Coke smoke coming out of Carolina.
Cokeheads. And that's his fan club.
Yeah, they're the Cokeheads. And then he got hurt early in the season. And a lot of people were really disappointed about that. So now he's fully healthy and he's looked pretty good, and have a true number 1 like Tet McMillan offset, there. David Canales has done a really good job with this team, has done a really good job with the offense. But kind of going to almost go back to like the Adonai Mitchell, like where's the path for him to be fantasy football relevant week in and week out, right? Like where is that path? And to me, I feel like Jalen Coker is one of those guys that's just a Darius Slayton, a guy who's like really solid for their NFL team. Definitely gonna have some good weeks because he's pretty talented. But from a dynasty standpoint, I mean, I know he's only 24 years old, so he's still a young guy, and there's a lot of room to grow there. But like, I think from the outside looking in, kind of going back to what I said earlier, when you play this game, you have to remember there's only so much to go around. There's only so much food to put on the plate, right? And some of those people are cooking the chicken, and Daddy gets a big piece of the chicken, right? And those are like the Jackson Smith and Big Buzz, the Jamar Chase.
Ted McMillan will be that dad soon.
Ted McMillan gets a big piece of the chicken, right? Like, so it's like like. It's easy. It's so easy in Dynasty to get excited about these guys, like some of the guys we were talking about, like because their names, and it's great depth to have, and they're the great throw in for trades, and that's what gets me excited about them, and I think that's where the value comes in when people are talking like about the Cokeheads and these players. Like, man, those are the great scale tippers that get deals done. Right. So like, that's what gets me excited about these players. Like, and that's what I kind of like look to go ahead and acquire them for. Cause I'm like, hey man, these guys they can show windows of value. And everybody like in Dynasty, everybody wants that new shiny toy, right? It's again, the love of draft picks is because of that new shiny toy. It's like, we've been using this comment a lot in 2025 about the, trading the boat for the Family Guy episode for the box, because the box can be a boat kind of thing. So like, right. When you have those kind of assets, I think their biggest value is the talk in the community, right? The hype up, and these people put out videos like this guy could be the guy in the fan clubs and the Cokeheads, because now someone's like, ooh, this is an upside guy. He's young, like I can get that guy, and you can use him plus a first. him plus another older player that's producing to go ahead and get what you really want, which is a long-term cornerstone asset. And where does Jalen Coker fit in the top 18, the top 24? You know, can Jalen Coker fit in that 28 to 36 range? For sure.
Yes.
For sure.
Yes.
But so can a whole bunch of those guys. So there's the easiest guys to go get in Dynasty. And it doesn't mean they don't hold value. But they're not the difference between you winning Dynasty Fantasy Football Championship and not. Great depth, good to have, but you need so much to go right for their opportunities, like Adonai Mitchell for all of a sudden, Garrett Wilson's been out forever. You need good storms to happen for you to get there. And listen, when you're entering a week after week 15 and you're going into the semifinals where now you just lost Pat Mahomes, you lost Devontae Adams, you're like, this is what we're talking. This is exactly the scenario we were talking about before the season started, right? Like going out there and make those small trades because you know what's going to happen. Go make those small trades. Like how great would it have been if you gave up a second for Tyler Shough just because I only got 2 quarterbacks. Like what if? Like you go out and you trade for who's a running back who's just now right now, you know what I mean? Or like a receiver. You went out there and got a guy like who. Nobody pops in my head. It's just but you had Devontae Adams, right? And Devontae Adams is not going to play this week. Right. That's a huge, massive blow to your team. So those small trades.
So you went and got DJ Moore, and now you're feeling okay about it.
Yeah, and DJ Moore's got another good matchup this week. Yeah. So
for me, I'm actually going to probably be the lowest. I was at like a 1.5 to 2 on Jalen Coker, and part of it's because I think they are going to add another pass catcher to this offense. I don't think
so.
I do.
After back-to-back years of spending first-round picks on wide receivers,
I don't think they draft somebody. I think it's possible, but I don't think they draft somebody. But they have they're right in the middle of the road of cap space. They have $40 million as of today in cap space. There's a lot of good tight ends in this free agent class this year. The high end is obviously Kyle Pitts, which I could see. But even if you're in the Dallas Goedert type range, I could see a Dallas Goedert being a great Carolina Panther to do the middle of the field, intermediate stuff. And it's just another mouth to feed. So then Coker moves to somewhere, maybe third. We'll see where Leggett is with all of it. How much do they run the ball next year with everybody healthy? And now we got Jonathan Brooks too. So are we running the ball more? Are we, so it's one of those scenarios where I think he could easily become the number 3 on his team very quickly. And it's not this high octane offense. So for me, I'm probably going to be the lowest here. I don't have a ton of belief right now in Coker.
Yeah. That's very fair. I just I mostly thought like how Matt said, like Xavier Leggett with the square peg round hole, like he has a chance to be a few option in that offense. And we haven't done our upcoming free agent show yet, have we?
We did it about a month ago.
Oh, but that was a month ago. Okay, I'm excited about where Dallas Goedert goes. Super.
Yeah, because remember we were talking about Jahan Dotson is maybe one of those sleepers. And
that's right. We did do that. I completely forgot all about it. My memory.
When you do as much content as we do, it starts to run together a little bit.
Yeah. Super stoked for Dallas Goedert. He's one of those guys that like, oh man, where's he going to go? Go somewhere sexy.
Yeah, I mean, I could see that being a great landing spot for him. We'll see though. All right, we want to do one more. Or do we want to move into our next segment? What do you guys think?
I mean, let's see here. We got
number 4 and number 6 we haven't done.
Why don't we mix it up and why don't we do both and then take the second segment from tomorrow's show and do that because it's just shorter anyways.
All right, we could do that. We could do the second segment in tomorrow's show. I'm good with that.
And roll this into tomorrow's show.
All right, why not? All right, so let's go to the tight end position, and then we'll finish off with the other wide receiver. Let's go to the tight end position. Gunnar Helm. Gunnar Helm has averaged 5 targets per game over the past 5 games. And granted, the Tennessee offense isn't the greatest offense in the world, but every week he just seems to get better and better, gets more and more involved, and you just see some good plays out of him, some yards after the catch, going up and getting the football, and he's becoming a very reliable target. And for me, I'll start on this one because he was one of those prospects that I was like, man, I'm snatching him up late everywhere. I liked his tape. I know he fell because of the weird, foot injury right before his 40. So ran like a 4.8 or something like that, something ridiculously low. And kind of everybody was off of him then. And I was like, man, but watching his tape, he was a much better athlete than that showed. Like, I don't believe that. And, he ended up going in the 4th round to the Titans. And I'm a pretty big believer. Chigo Okonkwo is another one of these free agents. I mean, they have plenty of money, so I guess they could re-sign him. But I think Gunnar Helm's shown enough that I could see him being their tight end next year. So for me, he's one of these guys that I believe in maybe a little bit more than the others. So I'm probably closer to a 4 on Gunnar Helm becoming at least a relevant fantasy tight end in the, Jake Ferguson's and the Hunter Henrys and like that kind of range. Like, I could see him ending up in that range very, very quickly for me. But am I drinking too much Kool-Aid here?
No,
I don't think you are either. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, dude, like Tennessee, the Tennessee Titans might as well be called the old Mother Hubbards, right? Because like that cupboard's bare. So it's, throw that poor dog a bone. And that poor dog is Cam Ward, and who's also looked better every single week.
He's played a lot better these past
well. And, Gunnar Helm was one of those people when we watched his tape, like, hey, Gunnar Helm's like, he's a solid player. He could, like, we saw when we watched his tape, like he could turn into something. Like he was a nice prospect, didn't have great speed, and he fell because he had a terrible combine, but he was hurt. Like he was hurt real bad, but still wanted to like compete.
He injured himself on like basically a false start on the 40. So it was fresh right when he ran his 40, and he tried to muscle through it. But like you mentioned, I think it might even been like a 4.9.
It might have been
close to a 4.9. It was a very bad time. But then you saw the pictures of his absolutely purple ankle the day or two after that he released. Yeah, that'll put a damper. That wasn't like just a slightly rolled ankle. That thing was messed up, man.
That ankle was a people eater for sure.
Yeah.
So, and if you watch like even how Gunnar Helm scored this week, like nice, really good crossing route, was able to outrun to the edge and get up the sideline into the end zone. Like he looks good. Like he's that sneaky good tight end to have on your roster right now that could turn into something. Because again, there's not a lot of options there in Tennessee. You got Alec Manor. I mean, the biggest upside player there is Alec Manor right now. And then that's not named Gunnar Helm, really. is what I'm saying. So, obviously this is a team that's going to add, add a
Absolutely.
lot, right? To this roster. So who knows how it's going to look. But I say one thing for sure. I think Gunnar Helm's put him in a position they don't have to worry about the tight end and let that player develop into something. He's obviously got a good rapport with Cam Ward. So I'm with you, Garrett. I give this a solid 4 out of 5. Like this is the perfect player this offseason. I would love to get in as a throw-in player. Perfect player this offseason. Like if there's anybody, like when people fall in love with the draft and like there's nobody there I love at the very, very end of the second, say, I know it sounds crazy now, but I think when you actually get your teeth deep into this draft class, you're going to realize, I think at the very back end of the second round, you're going to be like, oh, there's not a lot of love here. But for like somebody falls in love with the top end of the third, like, hey, I'll give you my third, I'll give you 3-1 and 4-1. Just give me Gunnar Helm, right? Like you took him down to your draft. Like he's the kind of player there I want to go get this offseason. I don't have any shares of Gunnar Helm. I have like my 30 something dynasty leagues, which is kind of odd. I don't believe, you know what? I think I do have a share, but like,
I got one.
I'm in.
Matt, what do you got?
So I'm with you guys, man. You guys both at 4. I might be slightly lower because of what Rich mentioned there towards the end is
Mother Hubbard.
They just have.
Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah. The cupboard is bare, and they have to add something just to bolster this young quarterback that they spent the first overall pick on. I'm guessing it's probably not at the tight end position, which is why I'm going to say 3.75 because we can do whatever the hell we want with the numbers, apparently.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm doing. But I do expect them to bring in some sort of wide receiver help. Obviously, Calvin Ridley is there. I can't remember what his contract status is.
He's probably done.
Yeah.
He broke his what?
Fibula.
Fibula.
Yeah, he's
for this year. No, I'm talking about next year.
Yeah,
he's
I'm
done
talking
this
for next
year.
year too. He's probably done. He's like 32, 33.
31.
He's old.
I don't know if he's that old. Either way, they're going to need help. Even if he comes back, they're going to need help at the wide receiver position. I would think that they focused. What'd you say?
Remember how long ago he was on the Saints? Doesn't it feel like three lifetimes ago?
You mean the Falcons?
Who was
Falcons.
The Falcons.
Yeah, see, it's been so long, I forgot. He could have been on like the Cleveland Spiders for all I know.
So he turns 31 this week.
Oh, happy birthday, Cal.
Happy birthday, Calvin Ridley.
And Merry Christmas.
So he'll be 31 turning 32 next year. And it's just, I mean, that's a pretty a broken leg is a pretty devastating injury. Like, we'll see, but he wasn't ever like a speedster to begin with. So, like, I don't know. I truly don't think they have a single receiver on this team that will be fantasy relevant ever. So I think it's going to be through free agency and through the draft that they actually get some players.
Let me ask you this. Do they have any fantasy relevant players maybe besides Gunnar Helm on this team then?
Hopefully Spears and hopefully Ward.
So no.
I mean, today, if I had to be confident, honestly, even though I like Gunnar Helm, like there could be 0 players inside the top 16 tight ends, top 24 running backs, and top 18 quarterbacks next year. Like they could all be not really relevant.
I'm sticking with 3.75 despite that forecast that you just gave, the cloudy forecast that you just gave.
We gave 4s.
What'd you say?
So we gave 4s.
I know you did, but you're not talking me down any further. I think Gunnar Helm's a talented player, and I think he can emerge.
All right, last one here. Let's go back to the wide receiver position and let's go to a receiver we haven't gotten to see much this year, but he's finally back. He's healthy. He's had more than 50 total yards in both of his games since he's returned, and that's Mr. Jayden Reed. And I know at different times, several of us on the podcast have really, really liked Jayden Reed. And Matt, I know at one point you I think it was in your hot takes episode last year, you talked about him potentially being a wide receiver 1 and, really liking him. Green Bay's been a mess. And just when it starts to like clear up a little bit, now Christian Watson's hurt again. And, it's always just
not bad.
It doesn't look like it's going to be bad. Yeah. But poor guy just can't ever seem to stay healthy. It's weird. Where are we at with Jayden Reed? Like, how confident are you that he's going to be a staple in your lineups next year?
God, man, it's so hard in this offense in particular. I do think it's going to start cleaning itself up a little bit here. I think isn't Dobbs he's a free agent, correct?
Dobbs and I think Wicks.
Yeah.
I think Wicks might have one more year.
Does he have one more?
If memory serves.
There were 2 guys. Maybe I don't know. Thought there were 2 guys, but I could be wrong.
I thought there was 2.
I think before Watson signed, he would have been up.
Maybe
Didn't he sign a deal?
Did sign an extension. Yeah.
I think it was him. So I think Wicks has 2026 underneath his belt. So it will, at least Dobbs will likely get cleared out of this situation. And really the guys that they have there, then, Jayden Reed and Watson can kind of live on the same squad together. I think Golden is the guy that kind of, and Watson are the guys that kind of don't play well together. You know what I mean? It's going to be hard for both of those guys to exceed or excel rather. So I like Jayden Reed. I can't say a 5 like I want to, but I'll say a 4.25. Why not?
Okay. All right. Rich, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm gonna go 4.35. I like Jayden Reed a little bit more.
I'm gonna amend it to 4.45. I like him more than I just like him more than Rich. So it's definitely my number's higher.
I'm a really big Jayden Reed fan. I have a ton of shares, and I traded for him even when he was out this year. I love that he's the biggest thing going against Jayden Reed has been his hands over the last year or so. Haven't seen that as a problem.
Not a great thing to say about a guy that makes his living catching a football.
But it always came in spurts, and I haven't seen this year since he's come back from injury. He's just a really dynamic player, right? Like he could take it from the he was always to me kind of compared like a poor man's Debo, right? Like a smaller Debo Samuel. Like he could be used as such a gadget player all over the field, and he's so different than Christian Watson. And you have Tucker Kraft come back there, and Jordan Love. We all know I'm a big fan of his in Matt LaFleur's offense. So like I think with him, Christian Watson, Josh Jacobs, Tucker Kraft, and using Matthew Golden, who I don't have a lot of like long-term upside for out there. I think Jayden Reed has a chance to still be a very fantasy relevant wide receiver. And like compared to everybody else, we said, like, I think he could be a starter on your team. I think he could be a starter on a championship caliber team. I think if he's your wide receiver 3, I think he's good enough in that role to help get it done with another solid team around him. So I love that he's so versatile, and there's so many different ways for him to win and score fantasy football points. So yeah, to me, the 4.5 sounds pretty good for Jayden Reed.
Yeah, I'll probably be the lowest. I'm going to be at like a 3 to 3.5. Mm-hmm. And him and AD Mitchell, I think, are the most talented players of this group that we talked about today.
Yeah.
I think they're the most talented. It's just Green Bay is such a mess when trying to figure out targets, when trying to figure out roles, when trying to figure out, all that kind of stuff. It's just a really, really difficult team to try to figure out. And so I think that's the hardest part in like putting him in our lineup and trusting him. Right now, AD Mitchell, at least for this year, he gets in my lineup. I trust him to get, 6 to 10 targets. If I put Jayden Reed in, I could see him getting 8 targets. I could see him getting 2 targets. And I think that's the trickiest part about him is I just don't know where those targets are going to be, especially next year when Tucker Kraft is back in the fold. Just how is all of that going to play together? I don't know.
I trust Matt LaFleur to put him in the right position to win. That's what it comes down to for me. Finding those, soft spots in the zone. He has the ability to line up at all 3 different wide receiver positions. He can run it down the sideline. He could take it in the flat. He could do ends around. So I think LaFleur is very conscientious of that too. So like, I think what's nice about Reed is somebody you put in your lineup and you're coming away with something, right? You're coming away with something solid. It just, can he find the end zone? And it can be one of those games where he has a lot of catches. And listen, face to facts as well. Like Christian Watson is somebody who just can't stay on the field health-wise, like a very talented receiver, but he just can't stay on the field. That puts it. So again, that would put Jayden Reed in a really good spot at some point to be the lone man standing out there as the number 1 option. So we'll see if Matt's right about Wicks, but like, I was under the same impression. And listen, even if Dante Wicks is coming back next year, I don't think that really changes.
Wicks is back next year. So it's Witts and Watson through 2026.
Okay. Yeah. So, and remember when they took Matthew Golden in the first round, like first thing that happened right after they're going to like Reed's agent immediately reach out to Green Bay's brass and like, listen, dude, like my player is a very talented player. He wants to know where he stands with this organization. And they made it very clear, like, hey, this means nothing to make how we feel about Jayden Reed. We still look at him as a very valid. Now, of course, that could be just, business talk.
Sure.
But, I think if you told me I had to take one player, God, man, Christian Watson looks really good at times. So I was going to say, so if you want to take one player at receiver position that I want on my team, I think I would take Reed because he's been more consistent health wise, but he gets hurt.
He's missed 8 games, 10 games.
Yeah, I mean, it probably would be Christian Watson. Like Christian Watson's got the highest upside, I guess.
Sure. Well, and this franchise made it even more difficult by like, oh yeah, and we drafted Savion Williams, which like they throw out there every once in a while just to jack things up even more.
Yeah.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. They don't care about our fantasy team whatsoever. They're trying to win, and they don't care if they have to roster 8 wide receivers. I'm pretty sure they would find spots for them on special teams. Hell, they'll turn one of them into a defensive back. I mean, Bo Melton's out there catching passes, but I think he converted, quote unquote, at the beginning of the season to cornerback, still catching touchdown passes. What the hell?
All right. So this is actually our crystal ball segment. And so we know Rich has crystal balls. and we wanted to each pick one thing that we think will happen in 2026. So we each pick one thing that, obviously some things are layups, but other things were like, you know what? I think I could see this happening in 2026, and it's not getting talked about much right now. So, Rich, you're ready to go. What do you got, my guy?
Yeah, we'll do this. We'll do it. You want to do no feedback? We just give our kind of predictions, and then since we only got about 10 minutes left, anyways,
we can do a little feedback.
Which
we're not gonna sit here in silence while you just talk, Rich.
I can't help myself.
So no, get over yourself. There's going to be feedback. I already wrote feedback on this page for what you wrote on here. I don't know if anyone saw that, but you said you wrote your little spiel, and I wrote some stuff on there as well.
Yeah. So I think, I think my prediction for 2026 is kind of going to be a carryover from what we're seeing now. And listen, there's a lot. I can sit here and just say anything. It's a prediction, right? But I think what we're seeing right now is going to continue over 2026. And I think 2026, Trevor Lawrence really does establish himself as a top 12 dynasty fantasy football quarterback, if not higher, by the end of the year. This is somebody, he won my Steady Eddie Award that was kind of just not talked about a lot. And, early in the season was kind of like doo-dooed on, he was just okay. But every single week he was pretty consistent. You got a Mr. Consistability Award. So, I mentioned in the beginning of the show, I said we're going to talk about Trevor Lawrence. This is a player, I don't know what has happened since the bye week, but since the bye week, Trevor Lawrence has really settled into this offense. And Liam Cohen, man, is, I was looking at Liam Cohen and this offense and everything he's done. When you look back all the way back when he was in college, remember, he was coaching Will Levis and made Will Levis look really good. And then when he left, it wasn't as good. When he was with Baker, right? Liam Cohen Baker looked like an MVP. He was a top 5 fantasy football quarterback. We've seen that kind of come back a little bit. And now he's with Trevor Lawrence, run the whole kit and caboodle. And since that bye week, man, he's doing this. And you got to remember early on that Brian Thomas was hurt. He's still getting it done. Now Brian Thomas is back. And he's making Parker Washington look good. Next year in a full offseason with Travis Hunter, with Brian Thomas. Who knows what else to do with this offense and how the running game is going to look. But I think Trevor Lawrence has shown us that he could be a really elite quarterback. And kind of falls in that category too, which you don't realize what you have is Trevor Lawrence is also a mobile quarterback. We saw it on this past week, where he had his one of the best, honestly, one of the best fantasy games we've seen in a very long time, right? Nobody puts up those kind of numbers. But he had 5 rushes for 51 yards. So for being 25, I feel much better about a player that I really attacked this offseason. I have so many Trevor Lawrence shares. It's gross. So I think he's going to cement himself in this Liam Cohen offense as a high-end dynasty fantasy football quarterback. And what's nice is I still think he's obtainable. Maybe not right now after that monster week. Well, obviously we're in the playoffs, right? But I still think there's a path to get Trevor Lawrence. Because those elite quarterbacks where you have to pay an arm. Good luck going to try and get Drake May. Good luck going to get Jane Daniels and Josh Allen. Maybe Jalen Hurts is probably open a window now, but even Jackson Dart is a better example, right? Go and try and get that young quarterback in Jackson Dart off some team and see if they don't ask for your oldest child first. And Trevor Lawrence is only 25 years old. He's still a very young prospect. And remember when he's coming out, he was considered one of those, I know we throw around the word around loosely, and I wouldn't call him this, but a generational prospect, right? When he was coming out, he was oh man, Trevor Lawrence would be the way they're talking about Arch Manning, essentially. That's what Trevor Lawrence was at Clemson. So I don't think what we've seen is just a joke. I think he's been real steady all year. Since the bye week, he's quarterback 2 overall, which is easy to do when you put up a 50-something point, 48-point game like he just did this past week. But to be fair, if you took out this past week, going into this week, he was quarterback 7 overall. And that And I'll give him that big point game because I think his second games after the bye, he had like a 10-point game. So when all of that's said, he's quarterback too, overall. So when you have the opportunity to get those kind of players on your roster, that's a path I love to go down. I already went into it this offseason, but I think my prediction is this continues over and Trevor Lawrence becomes the number 1 overall pick that he was supposed to be. And I think having a Travis Hunter who'll have then over a full year learn to run routes and learn a system and be in an offense as a receiver with year 3 of Brian Thomas and what other weapons I want to add. I think Trevor Lawrence could be now I say top 12, potentially top 8, top 5 fantasy football quarterback because again, his legs offer a lot of that as well. So very happy. That's my prediction. Trevor Lawrence, T-Law, go get it, son.
Well, having been unceremoniously dumped out of the first round of the playoffs by this guy, he can go screw himself. And I hope he gets gonorrhea and rots in hell, like him and Dan Marino.
Wear a condom, Trevor. Wear a condom.
I'm just kidding, of course.
Oh.
The wound is a little raw, but
come on, Trevor, do what you will.
But I honestly, obviously this is a great offense. I'm jealous of the Jacksonville Jaguars that they found a guy that they can actually turn a quarterback into something and develop him. I'm not sure Kevin Stefanski is capable of that here with the Browns or not. But it looks like T-Law is kind of headed in the right direction because the quarterback coach / head coach is just he has a system that's very friendly. He knows how to get the most out of guys, and T-Law is it took him a little bit to get going, but anybody in a new offense, there's going to be an adjustment period. So like you said, Rich, after the bye week, everything's kind of clicked into place for him, and he's gotten some pieces back. Some guys have gotten healthy, so I like him. I don't know that I like him top 5. But I do think he can live in that low end QB1 range, and sneak up the list a little bit here and there. But I think he's more of that 12 to 9 type of guy, or maybe 9 to 14 type of guy.
Well, yeah, we all can't be right, but yeah, it's okay.
What'd you say?
We all can't be right, but it's okay.
one of us will be. We'll see.
You go back to that coaching staff, Matt, too. Don't forget, we were talking about this earlier as well. Year 1's out the window at Herb. He's had terrible, he's been different offensive coordinators every single year. He's been put in a really bad predicament. And we talked about it before, how much your coaching and schemes matter. This is such a big pivot for. Speaking of pivots, Garrett, for Trevor Lawrence, he's found himself a really good situation. He's found his Daniel Jones, Shane Steichen.
I think they're getting the most out of him. I don't know that he's ever going to fully grow out of those little boneheaded things that he seems to always kind of do. So we'll see.
Since the bye week, those have all disappeared. It's been
okay.
It's a whole new world, as Aladdin would say.
Don't you dare close your eyes.
Get on my rug.
All right, Matt, you got a crystal ball prediction?
All right, so my crystal ball it's not going to be a 10-minute rant like Rich's, so shocker. But listen, I'm looking at a guy here that no one's really talking about here, and they've even drafted a guy in the second round that this past year that could end up taking his spot, and this could kind of all fall to the wayside. But for me, a guy like AJ Barner, it just seems to fit what Seattle wants to do really, really well. And for this being his second year, he basically has already doubled his output, and we have the rest of the season. And now Elijah Arroyo is on IR. I like what this guy brings. I like the physical presence that he brings. I don't know if he's ever going to be a high-end guy, but right now he's tight end 18. I could see a guy like AJ Barner sneaking into this conversation to be a guy that is at least in the low-end tight end 1 range. And all it's going to take is just kind of him establishing himself towards the end of this season and whatever playoff run that they have, if he gets hot, he could just ride that right into the starting gig next year, and kind of Elijah Arroyo, who's been there for the most part, 13 games this season, and hasn't done anything, 100 and something yards compared to AJ Barner's, I think 413 right now. So he's just doing more of what they want, I think, right now. And they want to be physical and tough. This is a defensive-minded head coach who came from Baltimore. And is he Mark Andrews? No, but he might be Mark Andrews light. You know what I mean? And if they can use him similarly in this offense, he could be a useful guy for fantasy that really no one's talking about right now. So just a nice streaming tight end that I wouldn't mind going out and kind of acquiring some shares of in the offseason if I don't have a solidified guy. Even if I do, just somebody that could be a fill-in backup type of guy and that I can expect to get some decent play, and he's not going to throw up a nothing burger for you for the most part. AJ Barner. What do you guys think about this guy?
I do like AJ Barner. I like Arroyo as well, so I think they're in good hands moving forward in Seattle. But he's shown quite a bit this year, and he's not the flashiest, he's not the sexiest, but he's just steady. He's kind of one of those Hunter Henry types where seems to be in the right place at the right time, always makes the play, gets the yards you expect him to get. Real workman-like type of tight end there. So I agree with that. I think he could very well find himself, in that Gunnar Helm range that we were just talking about. Like, I could see those guys being in a very similar type of pocket of fantasy football. Rich, any thoughts?
Yeah, they drafted Elijah Arroyo, who's nice. Were they a team that just extended Eric Saubert too? There's somebody else I'm thinking of.
I have no idea.
Either way, Saubert is just he is a run blocking tight end. He's never been anything for.
I don't think so, but like earlier,
from pass catching.
Listen, they need a really solid number 2 out there in Seattle, outside Jackson Smith and Jigba. They need it for Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold,
really solid number 2.
So nice. Could he be? For sure, but I'm more excited about Gunnar Helm.
Yeah. All right. My crystal ball is in the draft this coming year, 2026. We will have the lowest number of fantasy assets in the first 2 days, which is rounds 1, 2, and 3. We'll have the lowest number that we've had in the past 15 years. That's my prediction. Looking at this class right now, quarterbacks keep deciding to go back to school. We're going to wait and see what happens with Ty Simpson and Dante Moore. Obviously, that would help the class quite a bit. Right now, I'm expecting to see one of them, not both. I think Moore will come out. I think Simpson will go back, but we'll see what happens in the playoffs. That could determine a lot for both of these guys as well. So still something to be seen there. Right. What's that?
Moore's got to come out.
You would think.
We're talking about pre-show. It's just too many quarterbacks have gone back. Like, why? Like, you're guaranteed to be a top 5 pick. Like, you can't. Like, Ty Simpson's not guaranteed to be a top 5.
But remember, 2 years ago, bad running back class, and Travion Henderson has Quinshon Judkins there, and he decides to go back. So, I mean, weird things happen sometimes. Travion would have eaten in that class. It was the Jonathan Brooks, Trey Benson class. Like, Trey Henderson would have been the man.
But there's a difference between like a high second round pick running back and a top 5 overall.
It's true.
Absolutely. Because I mean, you remember what they're really chasing there too is that second contract. It's 1 year closer to that second contract. But you're right. I mean, either way, I'm with you. Like, I'm 100%. Like, does it matter? Is it just Fernando Mendoza or is it Fernando Mendoza Dante Moore? It's still super.
Yeah. And so running back wise, there's a guy that's going to be in the first round. And then after that, probably the second best back in the class hurt his foot and missed, the whole second half of the season. So who knows where he's going to be on everybody's radar, and Justice Haynes. And almost every other running back disappointed this year. Like, we'll see. There'll be a guy or two that I like once I dig into tape. I'm sure there will be, but there haven't been. Typically, there's like 2 or 3 guys that rise up. Like, oh, Javonte came out of nowhere and looks like a stud. Oh, Josh Jacobs. We thought he was the number 2 back in Alabama behind Damian Harris, but he's really the best one. And that kind of stuff happens every year. Hasn't really happened this year. Almost all of the running backs have disappointed and let us down. Receivers, really the only thing that's kind of holding true. We're going to have some good receivers, and there's a little bit of depth here. So that one will help us a little bit. But then once we get to tight end, you got like 2 guys, maybe 3 guys, and then that's really it. So my prediction, lowest number of fantasy assets on day 1 and 2 that we've had in the past 15 years.
Yeah, I think you think about that too, like moving ahead when you're getting ready your offseason as well, is like, like Garrett said, there's no running backs outside of really Jeremiah Love. Just if you're in SuperFlex, maybe 2 quarterbacks, which, a miracle at 3, a miracle. So you're talking about 3, possibly more likely than not. It's going to be 2. 1 running back is 3. And then right now, Sadiq out of Oregon at tight end is, guaranteed to be a first round pick inside your rookie draft and the NFL draft. And then you're going to have probably 4 to 5 receivers go in the first round potentially, so that puts it at 7. So at the back end, what you're going to be looking at is are you okay for your rookie drafts to take even at the back end of the first, the 5th, 6th best receiver? Is where you're getting in. That's what you're looking at. You want a top 5 or 6 pick this year. If you don't, it's going to be tough. Yeah, I would say it's a really good year. If you're in the playoffs this year, the whole offseason, what I'm doing with all my first that I still have is I'm going to work all the way through this draft process. I will give you my first. I'll give you my whole draft class. My first. I'm going to try and throw that crazy maneuver. We talked about before, the value of a second. Yeah, I'll give you my first. Say I have a first. I don't have my second. Just throw it out there. But say I have my second. My first, second, and third. And anything after that, I'll give my whole draft class just for your 27 firsts. All of them. I'll throw my 27 third too. Let's get fishy with it because I am I'm that concerned because do I really want to settle for the 6th best receiver in a rookie class that's considered weak as it is anyways? I don't think so. And right now, definitely in SuperFlex, how strong that 27 class is going to be. The receivers are going to be so good. Jeremiah Smith is going to be in that argument, even in SuperFlex go 1-1 with the quarterbacks. There's going to be 5 quarterbacks, Garrett, that are legit studs in the 27 class outside of guaranteed right now 3 receivers. They're going to be legit studs.
And we'll see what happens with Dylan Raiola, who was the number 1 quarterback in his class. And he's looking like he's going to transfer to Oregon or Florida or to Miami or something like that. So his stock's going to rise. It could end up being a great, like we had 2 years ago with Caleb Williams' class, we could see something similar to that.
Yeah. So a late what I'm trying to say is then if you have even a late first in 27, say you get the guy who just won and you have pick 9, or say you have pick 10, you lost in the playoffs, but you get the guy just won a chance to have 2 first round picks, and it's going to be a late 27 first. I think the guy who goes 112 and 27 would have probably gone 1-4, potentially even 1-3 in 2026. I think it's gonna be that good, and I think it's gonna be really nice to get that good quarterback as well. So not only will I think the quarterbacks will push players down naturally, but I also think you're gonna be in a position to get a good young quarterback upside player as well, which is really hard to do, and that's the creme de la creme of value. So, all right, the show went way longer than I anticipated.
No doubt about it. Adios.
We'll be back tomorrow with a smaller show.
Adios.